we'll be talking about how to solve multiple choice questions. Now, most of the examinations these days have a pattern which is multiple choice questions. We will be discussing throughout this class 3 simple tricks to solve all kind of multiple choice questions. Now, let's first understand what is a multiple choice question. So, we have a question, we have 4 or 5 choices. 3 of those are the distractors and one of them is a correct answer. In some cases, there are multiple correct answers. So, the question is known as the stem and the choices are known as the alternatives or foils. We'll be using this terminology throughout our session. Now, there can be various types of objective questions. You have one question with 4 choices, then one question with 5 choices, then you can have single correct answer, you can have multiple correct answer, you can have questions where it is kind of subjective description which asks which of the following best describes or best explains. So it's not exactly very much objective, in the sense it's not mathematical or you cannot calculate it. The next is questions based on judgment, where you are asked to find out most probable, most likely or most correct, best suitable option. And finally you have alternatives with one or more choices correct, as I said. So these are the various types of objective questions that you have. Now the best part of any MCQ paper is you have the answer in front of you. So you have the question paper, you have the question, you have the answer. The only thing is you need to know how to understand that question, comprehend that question and reach to a correct answer. Most of the students feel they are very afraid of multiple choice questions. They get confused while seeing multiple choice questions. So in this session we will be understanding the best strategies, and an individual can segregate what kind of a strategy suits a personality best. So it depends from individual to individual what ways to adopt to solve a multiple choice question. The most important thing is you have the answer in front of you, which is not ever the case in subjective questions. Now there are some tips that we must remember to solve before we solve any kind of MCQ questions. First of all, for solving any multiple choice questions, you must have a good conceptual clarity. So your concept should be crystal clear. Then you should be able to integrate information from various aspects. You should be able to analyze major topics, highlight the major issues. Then you must be able to solve questions or understand questions that have been asked in the previous year's paper. So I can say old is gold. So try to solve at least last 10 to 20 years question paper. That would give you a thorough idea about what kind of questions are asked in a particular kind of examination. You can take help of memory devices. So if you feel while reading there are things which have a lot of rote learning required, you can put out posters on your room where you can highlight things, and that will help you in learning those concepts off and on when you walk through that area. Then you can focus on minute details. It's important to memorize some of the data. For example, questions asked directly on the theoretical aspects of census or population results, election results or something like that. You must be very much informative about the exact data and the information that has come up. Now, learning through spacing is an important criteria. So if I have 6 hours that I can devote to my study, there can be 3 kind of people. One person sits continuously for 6 hours and studies and might end up with a grade C. Another person studies for 3 hours and then take a break and studies for 3 hours, might end up with grade B. And there can be another person who studies for every half hour, takes a break and then continues and so on till 6 hours and gets a grade A. So this practice is known as massed practice or concentrated practice. In fact, this practice is known as spaced practice. So for MCQs, to get best results, we suggest that you go for spaced practice rather than a massed or concentrated practice where you are just sitting down and trying to read and read. So that won't give you a kind of productive result as compared to a spaced learning where you are rejuvenating your mind after every few minutes or every few hours, and you are able to have a better retention. Then the next is working with mnemonics. For example, if I want to learn the color of the rainbow, it's very difficult to remember the 7 colors. But if I have an acronym with me which says Vigyor, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red, it becomes very easy for me to remember it. So similarly, for all other concepts which require lot of extensive learning, for example, periodic table in chemistry. So those are some things where you can easily apply mnemonics and learn better. Now, as we talked about previously, we'll be talking about 3 E's of solving MCQs. Those 3 E's are elimination, estimation, and extra detailing. Now we'll be understanding this one by one as we go throughout our lecture. So first we'll understand how can we solve. As I said, solving MCQ varies from person to person. So if you are doing a group practice learning along with your friends, it's not necessary that the way in which one of your friends is doing, you will perform better in a similar way. So you have to analyze your strengths and weaknesses. We say an individual can do a SWOT analysis for oneself, that is understanding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So what you need to do is mainly focus on your strengths and weaknesses. So if you feel you are good in a particular section, you can do it quickly, while the section in which you are weak, you can devote more time. Also, some people feel that a particular strategy of solving MCQ can be used. We talk about 2 strategies. One is forward strategy and another is backward strategy. Some say they perform better with forward strategy, the others say they perform better with backward strategy. So it depends on an individual how you go forward. Now we'll be understanding all these, but before this, let's understand what is an MCQ test. If you are learning a vehicle and you want to get a driving license, what will you do? You will go for a driving test. Now what happens in a driving test is similar to what happens in an MCQ test. You have an exam pattern with you where you are told about certain rules about driving. You must know the navigation skills for driving, while in MCQs you must know where to speed up, where to slow down. So if you have a set of 5 questions, for example, that are asked in the paper, what you need to do is, you know one question 1, 2, 3 thoroughly, 4 you don't know anything, and then you know question 5. So you will be solving 1, 2, 3, you will mark this with a star or something, and then go to question 5. After completing all the set of questions, you will jump back to question 4 and devote the remaining time. So that is one strategy how you solve a multiple choice question. So you try to skip tough questions. Similarly, if you are a new learner, if you have L besides your car, what you would do, you will give way to the other vehicles that are coming on the road. So you will watch out for tricky questions and you will not get distracted by small things that are given, or I could say distractors that are given. Now answering the question in a forward manner. The best method is you read out the question and you hide the choices. So I have the question, I have the choices with me. What I'll do is I'll hide away the choice. I'll read the question, and if I'm fully confident about it, I'll say the answer is so and so. For example, who is the President of India? I'm confident, I'll say Pranab Mukherjee is the President of India. Then I'll look at the choices, I'll see Pranab Mukherjee, I'll take it. But remember, read the question very carefully. There can be options which says which of the following have never been a Prime Minister of India, or which of the following are not a Prime Minister of India. In that case, 3 of those would be Prime Minister and 1 won't be the Prime Minister. So if it is asked about President or Prime Minister, that can again confuse a student. So it's very important to read the question carefully, then look at the choices. So forward method talks about solving the questions with the concept that some people feel that they get confused or lost while seeing the choices. So for them, we suggest don't see the choice, just see the question, hide the choices, see what the answer is and check if the answer lies in the question, tick it out. But in spite of that, go through all the choices at least once in order to avoid any kind of silly mistake that is very, very important. Silly mistake would cost you a lot in MCQ if there is a negative marking. Next method is backward method. What you will do is, you have a question, you have the choices. Now for some reason, some people are not confident about the answers. So if you are not confident about the answers, go through the choices. Remove the choice that you feel are incorrect. A cannot be the answer, C cannot be the answer. So I am left with B and D. And now I guess due to some reasons B does not suits in well. So D would be the correct answer. So that's a kind of backward method, and under this backward method we apply the technique which is known as elimination. So what I am trying to do here is, I am trying to eliminate the incorrect options and I am trying to move to a correct option. So that is what is a backward method, or so two methods we have talked about, a forward method and a backward method. Depending upon an individual, you can choose out which method do you want. Now it's very important to be the wheat. What does that mean? What is examiner trying to do? There are 1 lakh aspirants, say, who are appearing for the examination. The seats are 1000. What the examiner is trying to do? Examiner is trying to remove the wheat from the husk. So what is important here is, a single mistake can cost you a lot. So have a proper sound sleep before the examination and try to be fully confident and fully focused while solving an MCQ paper. So from this husk, you have to be the wheat. So what happens is, try the choices that suits you best. Work out with the words like except, not, never, always. Then if there are 2 negative phrases, it would lead to positive statement. So negative becomes positive. Which of the following does not lead to a non-food producing organism? That means you are talking about an organism which is producing food by itself. So that means you are talking about green plants. So that is an example of negative becomes positive. So remember this, and then be very careful with formulas, units and values of constants. So if the value of constant is 3.6 into 10 raised to power minus 24, be careful that you remember and you are not confused with 10 raised to power minus 12 or something. For units, remember if it is meter per second throughout the question and the choices have kilometer per hour, make sure you are converting the units, because the examiners are very, very smart. What they do, if the answer is 6 meter per second, they will put the choice as 6 kilometers per second and then they will convert it and also put it as a correct value for kilometer per hour. So what you will do is, while solving the question, you will say the answer comes to be 6 and you will mark 6. You will skip the units. So it's very important to pay attention to the units very, very carefully. Next question. There can be twin choices and it is here where the confusion predominates. For example, there is a question and there is one choice that says most likely party A will win the elections, and the second choice says it is likely that party A will win the elections. Now it is a kind of twin choice, similar choice. You need to find out where the strength lies. If you feel party A is about to win the election with higher confidence, you must mark most likely, otherwise you can mark it as likely. So it is here where language creates a lot of confusion. Now there can be grammatical matches. This is a very interesting way to answer some of the questions. For example, if the question is talking about Ramesh is a person, he goes 5 kilometers east, then 10 kilometers south, then he meets one of his friends called Geeta. Now Geeta is following a specific direction, and at the last he asks something about Ramesh. Okay, so you have to match the gender similarities, stating that the choices with she can be omitted and the choices with he can be considered. Okay, so that's one way to eliminate incorrect choices. The other way is, if there is a singular element that goes through the choice, then in the choices, if there comes a plural element, that cannot be a choice. So if there is singular element throughout the question, it has to be singular in the answer also. Then if the question is ending with "and", then there must be some vowel. So it must start with an idea and not an dog, for example. So this cannot be the choice, but this can be a choice because it is starting with a indefinite article. So these are some kind of grammatical matches that you can consider. Now again, length of response is important. Usually, lengthier responses are correct. This is just usually. Make sure to understand the question before you solve. It's not like that I'm mentioning lengthier responses are usually correct, so all the lengthier response you mark out to be correct. So it's usually lengthier responses are correct because an examiner tries to put in a lot of information to support the question. So it's how we understand the length of response. It's better to attempt theoretical questions first and not waste a lot of time in calculations and leave the questions of calculation later on. As I said, you can either star out or mark out questions with some sign so that it's easier for you to come back to that question later on. Okay. Now if you have a paper of 3 hours and you have 100 questions, what is important is time management. You must be able to understand how much time to devote to each question and then keep last 15 minutes. If it's 3 hours or 2 hours papers, keep last 10 to 15 minutes for marking the OMR sheet. That's again very, very important. Because if you are solving the questions till the end, even if you solve say 80 correct questions, at the end you are running short of time and you are able to mark only 60 questions in the OMR sheet, it's of no use. So you must have a good time management. So for that, it's better to attempt theoretical questions first and then go to questions with calculations. We already talked about the spaced practice. Skipping is usually not preferred. Now, I say skipping is not preferred because some of the people, when they skip, they do not mark the question. So if you are just skipping and you are not marking the question, what would happen? At the end of the question paper, when you will reach the question number 100, what will happen? You will forget what all questions you have left, first of all. Secondly, if someone is in a habit of skipping, reading a question a little hard, they will skip it. Next question a little hard, they will skip it. So at the end, the number of questions they will attempt would be only 20 and there would be 80 questions that would have been skipped. That would leave a lot of time wasted for them and at the end, they will have a shortage of time. Now, can you change the first response that you have marked correctly? For example, there is a question, I have marked that response A is correct. Now, shall I change it or shall I not change it? There have been various researches about it. Some of the findings say usually 51% of the time person changes from wrong response to right response. 25% of the time they change from right to wrong, and 23% of the time they move from a wrong to a different wrong answer. So it's very, I could say, difficult to say whether you should change a response or not. But however, in questions in which you are doubtful, you should mark them separately. For example, if I am answering question 1, 2, 3, 4, I have done question 1, 2, 3 correctly. I have not solved question 4, so I am marking it by star. And question 5, I am marking it with a kind of triangle or something. So that shows me these questions I have left, and these questions I am doubtful if I get time and go to these questions again towards the end after even solving the questions that I have left. Now simulation. Before the examination you must try to simulate once. So try to give practice test. Sit for 3 hours, take any paper, try to solve it, and then try to solve it as if you are sitting in an examination hall with full concentration and full retention, and then you will try to work out with your weak areas, whether you are not able to do time management properly, whether you are not marking the OMR sheet properly, and so on. Now, here is one example of elimination. Which of the following is a support service on university campus? Pantaloons, Walmarts, all of the above, University Learning Center. So obviously the answer would be University Learning Center. Pantaloons and Walmarts are shopping centers. And since these two are incorrect, this would be incorrect. So you can mark easily by elimination. Now, the most important thing, when to guess. For example, I have a question paper with 100 questions. Case 1, no negative marking. So if there is no negative marking, attempt 100% questions. Not a single chance of leaving a single question. Case 2, if there is negative marking. Now, if there is negative marking, what kind of negative marking? We will be considering 4 cases. So, +1, -1. So, +1 for a correct question, -1 for an incorrect question. No guesses. Not a single guess. Attempt only those questions in which you are fully confident. Second case, +1 and -1/2. That means you are getting 1 mark for the correct question. You are deducting 1/2 mark for the incorrect question. Similarly, +1 -1/3 and +1 -1/4. Most commonly occurring cases, +1 -1/4 and +1 -1/3. Now, in this case, let's go with the last case first. What would happen if I eliminate, I have 4 choices, if I eliminate 1 choice, what would happen? There is 33% chance out of these 3 I would mark something correct. Okay. So if there are 4 questions that I am attempting, I'll mark it here. Okay. 4 questions I am attempting. What would be the best possible combination? 6 questions I am attempting. What would be the best chance with 33%? There can be 2 correct choices and 4 wrong choices. Okay. So here I will do is I'll create a table for the remaining questions. So 33% chance and 50% chance. That means 33% chance means I am eliminating 1 question, and here I am eliminating 2 questions. Sorry, 2 choices. So I have 50% of the chance of question being correct. So when I am eliminating 33% and 50%, what would happen? I would have 2 correct choices and 4 incorrect, and here I have 2 correct and 2 wrong answers if I am attempting 4 questions here and if I am attempting 6 questions here. Now let's go from this one by one. So what would happen in this case? 2 correct, so I get 2 marks. 1/4 incorrect, so I deduct 1/4 into 4, so I deduct 1 mark. So there is a net gain of 1 marks. So in the question paper, if there is 1/4 negative marking and you are eliminating 1 incorrect answer, then if there are 6 such questions, you can solve those and you will get 1 bonus marks, because you will be able to make 2 correct responses and 4 incorrect responses, and still you will be able to gain 1 marks. But this would be very interesting if you have 50% of the choice. If you are sure 2 choices are incorrect, what will you do? You will get 2 marks here, and here you will deduct just half marks. So you will be getting 1.5 marks benefit. So if there are 4 questions, or in those 4 questions you are sure about 2 choices that those are incorrect, with the remaining 2 choices, if you are marking, if you are guessing, what would happen? You would gain 2 for correct answers and -1/2 for 2 incorrect answers, and you would have a chance of 1.5. positive that you can get. Now if I go here, I have 2 here and I have minus 4 by 3 here. So still I have a positive chance of getting marks, but that positive chance decreases. Here what it becomes is 2 correct and minus 2 by 3 as incorrect. So still I have a chance of 4 by 3 that is correct here. And here if it is plus 1 and minus half, what would be here? With 2 correct choices I get 2 marks, and with half incorrect choices I deduct 2 marks. So it becomes 0 net to net. That means if there is plus 1 and minus half, you can attempt questions only and only if you are sure about eliminating 2 choices. Because if you are eliminating 1 choice and attempting 6 questions, you land nowhere. Okay, so for plus 1 and minus half negative marking, attempt only if you are eliminating 2 choices with full confidence. Because here what would happen? You will get 2 and you will deduct half or deduct 1 half for each. So you will get a marks of 1. So here when it is plus 1 and minus 1/4, you can attempt when you can eliminate either 1 choice or 2 choices with full confidence. So this is how we understand the pattern of guessing, which is very important before you start solving the MCQ questions. Now the important thing here is the guess that you are marking should be an educated guess. Usually the words like always, never are less likely correct as compared to usually, probably. Funny responses if given are not correct. None of these are usually not a correct option, but all of these is a confusing choice for most of us. And you must look for keywords which are creating association between the question and the choices. So verbal association is important. The next is estimation. So here you have a question. Now in this question you have choices which are given very close by. So it's very difficult to estimate. So even if I say this is nearly 2.5, this is 50 into, if I consider this to be 50 and I say this is 50 into 100, so that 20, that's 1000. And then I try to solve it, I can say that I can work out with estimations if the choices are 1200, 1000, 800, 600. I can say this is somewhere near to 1000. But if the choices are very closely marked, you cannot apply estimation. You have to solve the question fully to reach to an answer. Next question is removing extra details. This is very important. Sometimes what the student do, oh, such a long question, I should read this question, move to the next question. But in reality, this question is very easy because Ram won ₹50 in a competition, and the next important sentence, you can read this wholly. It was worth half as much as the one he broke. So how much did he pay for the boat that he broke? Is twice the cost, that is twice of 50, which is 100. So answer would be 100. So all these 3 lines which are given are useless. They are just extra details given to confuse the student so that the student puts in a lot of time and fails in solving all the questions. So that is another strategy you must apply. Now, most important section is OMR sheet. Most of the students we have seen, they are very good at solving MCQs. They solve questions very thoroughly, but at the time of marking the OMR sheet, everything is gone. They are left with so less time, they hurry up marking. When they hurry up marking, if this is a circle and I mark it this, computer won't detect it. So I have to mark it fully correct. Next case can be, if this is the circle, I mark it somewhat like this, so it goes outside the circle and you lose a mark because this won't be a valid result. So if you are marking it partially, if you are over marking it, both of the cases you will lose a mark. Then again, if you have questions 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, what you have done, you have left 10 questions towards the end that you are planning to solve towards the end, and you are first planning to put in the answers on the OMR sheet. So what I do is, I have attempted 1, 2, I have left 3 and I have attempted 4. But the answers are A, B and C. Now while marking, what I'll do, I'll mark A here, then I'll mark B here, then I'll mark C here. I'll forget that this C is for question number 4, so this should not be here, but it should be here. So it's a kind of very common mistake that people make, and it's a kind of very silly mistake. Because you have left question number 3, you don't have an answer for this right now. But by marking, you are marking it incorrectly, and when you reach question number 10 or 13, you realize, oh, this was 30, answer was D. How come I have marked something incorrectly? Then you will go back again, you will rub the whole sheet, and then you will start it from the scratch. So that is something that lot of students do and hang up with problems. So marking OMR correctly is very important. Again, some common mistakes: not reading the question carefully, not reading the choices carefully, not going through all the choices. Look for clues within the question paper. Changing the first answer off and on. Oh, this was not correct, I should mark it as B. Then you will come back again. Oh no, B is not correct, I should again mark it as A. So those switching along the choices creates problem. And do not spend too much of time on a single question. Be positive. Never cram for objective questions. Never do rote learning. Don't think negative. Don't do night outs before examination. Don't be late to the examination, and don't expect you are God, you will know everything. So this is how we try to solve MCQ questions. Hope this class will help you in solving the multiple choice questions and for your future competitive examinations. You can subscribe to Examrace channel. In the next session, we'll be talking about how to work around subjective questions. So for those whom you have both kind of who are appearing in both kind of papers, it would be very useful on understanding the good writing skills for subjective questions. Have a good day.